Hello and welcome to another edition of Live Stream Insiders. This is our 39th show. It's show 39, episode 39. My name is Peter Stewart, and you know what? We value your minutes, we value your megs. That's why our shows of updates, everything to do with live streaming over the last 7 days, not more than 30 minutes, so the timer has started. My background is in broadcast media for radio and TV, working for a well-known British broadcasting company and training people and writing about radio and TV production and presentation and journalism and all sorts of things on that side of the fence. And my co-host is Krishna Day. Hi, Krishna.
Hi, and my background is in digital communications and social media. So together we are the Live Stream Insiders. Peter, lots of news for us to cover this week. We don't have time for chit-chat.
Absolutely. Let's get cracking on. We've got changes to Facebook Live to talk about. We've got confirmation that YouTube are getting into the live stream scene. And also Periscope has been in the news. Some international stories have been featuring Facebook Live and Periscope this week. And also we'll try and squeeze in some updates to some other apps which are to do with live streaming that we've spotted. Lively, for example, and also Tumblr as well. Really interesting stuff. So let's crack on, and we'll start off with some really big Facebook news or Facebook Live news in case it hasn't, in case it escaped your notice. So what we've got here, let's run down the 3 bullet points. First of all, 3 big updates to Facebook Live. 2-person remote broadcasts. Hey, that's a little bit like we're doing right here, right now on Blab. Psst, which has let us down recently. Last week, Blab had a few problems, and I know we've had a few problems with this particular platform in the past. Also a way for you to pre-schedule your streams so that people can work around you, so they know when something's going to happen, so that they can have a kind of virtual green room. We'll talk about that in a few moments' time. And also perhaps of less interest perhaps, but still we'll mention it, kind of quirky, and that is to have kind of face masks and things like that a la Snapchat. So let's dive into each of these in turn. Krishna, first of all, let's do you want to talk about these 2-person remote broadcasts?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. We're going to be able to actually bring somebody else on. So what I'm unclear at the minute, because there's been nothing detailed and provided around it, is are there going to be some limitations? So you might remember the app Meerkat, which has actually migrated into something else now, where you could bring somebody in for a quick conversation, but it was very limited in the number of seconds you had. So I'm pretty excited about this because it could be a platform for us to use, even Peter, if there's just the 2 of us doing our shows. And obviously we need to look at other platforms if you want to have multi-person live streams. But I'm really waiting to find out whether or not it's going to be limited, like you can only have somebody there with you for 5 minutes, and I can see why they'd want to use it, because some of the other things we're going to talk about a little later on is also about how mainstream media organizations are using Facebook Live significantly. So you can imagine them wanting to bring it in from that perspective. I have heard, and I'm not sure if it's quite accurate, that it's going to be rolled out to people on pages that are verified, but I do hope it gets to the rest of us soon. So I hope it's not one of those where we have to wait months and months. Like those of us in Europe have had to wait a long time for Facebook Live to be available to all of us on our profiles and pages. So let's see what's going to happen. And I'm really excited about that. But I also want to kind of pick up the green room. You've talked about it as a green room. Nobody else has, Peter. You and I know the green room from the context of media, and the green room is the place that you bring people to get them comfortable. One of the concerns that we've had, even on platforms like Blab, let's say you have a guest coming in, or maybe you've got people who you don't know and you're recording it and you're going out, let's say, to a business audience. In things like Google Hangouts on Air, you can actually just check that their sound was fine, their camera was fine, and in fact, they were appropriately dressed. As we've seen people come onto platforms such as this, where they haven't been appropriately dressed, I mean, with no clothes on. So the green room is a great place to get people warmed up, but maybe you can pick it up from your context about how you're reading it, because nobody else is talking about it as a green room as you and I would.
Well, you know what? If you can pre-schedule broadcasts, and I guess that's really a lot of what it's about as well. One of the biggest problems with live streaming is that when you go live, you've inevitably, particularly still on Periscope, got this problem where there's an awful lot of rambling And the phrase you hear so often is, I'll wait a few more minutes until some more people join us. How you know when the optimum time is going to be, because of course in that 2 minutes more people are joining. You're always going to have that churn, of course, as other people thinking, let's get the hell out of here because this is just time wasting. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of the show as soon as possible. And of course, if you're going to pre-schedule broadcasts, if you've got that kind of green room where people can mill around, if you like, and have the warm white wine and things on sticks before you actually start, it means that hopefully you've got that optimum number or near optimum number of people already ready and willing and able to watch you and perhaps join in as soon as you do actually go live. Building in with that the notifications to prompt people with a bit of an elbow nudge that, hey, we are about to start, then it kind of all adds together if people are able to assemble, so they're ready and they're waiting with bated breath for when you impart your words of wisdom. And we mentioned briefly a few seconds ago about the mask feature. So I guess this is, as I say, a little bit like Snapchat, these various lenses and various kind of masks and effects and so on that you can add on to yourself. Or indeed other things that you're seeing while the footage is actually being broadcast live. And I guess that could be able to encourage people to broadcast a bit more often and have a little slight change of format, slight change of production values as well. And I guess all of this is what it's doing is helping Facebook cope with a decline in original sharing. The more that people are broadcasting live video, the more it is that people are likely to be thinking that it's something kind of worth watching when something is perhaps too polished. I was mentioning this last week, Krishna. We seem to have gone kind of over the last 100 years, going from raw is and unedited and live is the only thing we had, to then, of course, the invention of the recording tape for TV and radio, where then things were able to be edited and produced, and then people thought that was brilliant but didn't like the raw unedited live stuff. And now we seem to be going back to that and saying that this is the holy grail of being able to capture people's attention. So I think that's quite interesting, that all of these new kind of features, all of these new features are contributing to hopefully get more and more people on whichever system it is, whichever platform it is, whether it be Facebook Live or whether it be Periscope. And another way of getting more and more people to watch, another way to get more and more people engaged, is to get some of the really big names on board. And of course that's been happening over the last couple of weeks, and we'll come to celebrities in a few moments time, who, as we've mentioned before, are going to be paid to be on Facebook Live. But also you've noticed, I know, more and more publishers are joining in. So for example, here in the UK, the Daily Mail is doing more and more live streams.
Certainly in terms of collaboration, that's one of the things that we're seeing more of. So just as Peter and I here collaborate, we've also been able to learn from that in terms of YouTubers. So just a couple of examples of organizations that are collaborating that were actually caught my attention. One was the Daily Mail, which is a UK newspaper, teamed up with Epicurious on National Martini Day to show people how to create the perfect martini. And that content was on the Daily Mail's Facebook page. You know, that got me thinking, because we talk about sponsored content. And so I don't know if there's money that's changed hands for these things at this point in time. And of course, there'll be probably some arrangements there from Facebook, which we're going to come to a bit later. But actually, it's perhaps a way that, for example, if you're a brand and you're looking to get some further reach, you might be starting to put into your contracts, actually, how do we make sure that that content is also shared over certain social networks, but also how do we make sure that it's shared in terms of the content, in terms of, let's say, on Facebook Live or Periscope or other platforms. And there was also the Daily Beast partnered with Food 52. Of course, food always does well in terms of on social networks, and particularly on Facebook. And so they actually looked at how to have different Father's Day cocktail themes. Actually, there's an alcoholic theme in here as well, isn't there? And you have to be very careful with that in terms of making sure your pages are only visible to those who are of the legal drinking age in whichever country you're in. But the idea is about the collaboration to get exposure to new audiences, those that aren't competitors. And, you know, we've seen, as I said before, lots of that example in terms of with YouTubers collaborating. And I look, for example, at Jamie Oliver, that many people would know internationally. And he's got 2 significant channels on YouTube, which you might want to have a look at and see how he's done that in terms of Drinks Tube and also Food Tube. And what he's done there is, of course, there's his own content, but he's got many, many, many people from all over the world who are creating content, and together they've grown. I know some people who've actually participated in that. I know one particular person from an Irish context who's done a brilliant job themselves, but by him partnering with Jamie Oliver, he's grown. And of course, Jamie Oliver's own channel has grown significantly too. So I think one to be watching out for there in terms of more and more collaborations.
And it's interesting that the Daily Mail, very often when they're doing these live streams on Facebook Live, very often there's no presenter, there's no commentary, there's no audio on it. They're in a studio, they've got lighting set up, but there's no commentary. So that's what the Daily Mail in the UK has been doing, and also the Daily Beast as well. They've got some really big numbers, 30,000 views up to 60,000 views. Most Daily Mail live videos get between 20 and 60,000 views. But also because we're UK based, UK and Ireland, in London and Dublin respectively. Let's take a look at a couple of publications over this side of the pond. So the Sun, the Times Literary Supplement, they're Murdoch-owned publications, so News UK, and they're really ramping up the use of live video streams for their output as well. They say over 50% of the live videos they do are in a studio because, ironically, higher quality. So it's strange, isn't it, that kind of mixing and merging of, as we were saying before, about whether something's going to be produced and edited or live and raw. We're kind of mixing those because it's live and raw, but in a studio where you might expect things to be produced and edited. And they actually work out in their editorial meetings for the newspaper, for the publication, okay, these are stories which are going to go online and in the newspaper. What can we actually do on a live video stream as well? And again, they are bearing in mind that a lot of these people are going to be watching without the sound up. So they've got to be quite creative and very, very visual. Just looking down here at a few of the hits they've had so far. Cats predicting the outcome of the England and Wales football/soccer game. They've had someone just filling up a football sticker book. You've probably got those elsewhere in the world, the different stickers for the different players in various football teams and a page for each of those teams. They have done some interviews. They've also had a couple of guys in an ice bath and just watching them as they try and cope with the coldness of the ice and working out how long they're going to be lasting for. So quite stunty, very, very visual, something with an element of danger, maybe something quite humorous as well. They've also had, I know, some men who've been waxed live on air as well. The duration of these, 15 to 20 minutes, really, really important. When I do my Periscope shows, they've just been 11 minutes. I know you can do them pretty much open-ended, but keeping them to a reasonable length of time so people know how much time they've got to commit to watching. So 15 to 20 minutes, they're getting around 35,000 views. What's working less well is the conversations, are the interviews, are people doing something straight to camera, something like that. So it's always a bit of a challenge to create visual stuff that it really is creative. None of these, incidentally, sponsored at the moment, apart from the sponsor of the publication, whose banner they're running under, of course, whether it be the Sun or the Times, for example. But I know that also a lot of celebrities are getting involved, as well as the big name brands. And in fact, there's quite a bit of money floating around, isn't there, Krishna?
There is. So in fact, Facebook themselves have actually got some contracts, and I was really quite surprised about how many media companies and celebrities are actually collaborating now in terms of live video. And it's 140 is actually reported in, it was actually the Wall Street Journal that we saw this in. So the company actually has agreed to make payments to video creators totaling more than 50 million US dollars. So Facebook themselves obviously realize they can't go to Facebook Live and expect that to be such a great success without having great content. So that's why they've gone to content creators, be that celebrities or in fact traditional media channels. The value of different individual contracts will be actually varies very, very widely. So the highest, unsurprisingly, is for one which almost broke Facebook Live some time ago, but isn't the most watched piece of content on Facebook Live now. But it's BuzzFeed, as we all might remember, that watermelon exploding. 3.05 million for broadcasting over a year's period between March 2016 and March 2017. Behind them is the New York Times, and CNN is a third. And the other thing that's been interesting is about how many more organizations are actually using Facebook Live in terms of for media companies. So in May of this year, 44% of the top 500 Facebook pages maintained by media companies had posted at least one live video to Facebook, which was up 11% in January. It's been growing. I didn't anticipate it was quite that much. But also other organizations such as Tastemade that we've talked about here previously in April said it would be producing more than 100 Facebook Live shows in a month, is set to receive about $1 million from Facebook for videos that they produce in the 1 year period. And they're meant to be exclusive for the Facebook Live platform. One of the things that I see many people doing is looking at republishing content from one platform to another. And I think Facebook, I would anticipate, is going to come down hard on that. So, of course, in the contracts that have been signed, they'll be saying, you can't live stream this to your website. You can't live stream it onto other places. So it's got to be exclusive to Facebook. And so that's really interesting in terms of the growth of those partnerships as we're now seeing it. And as you said, Peter, for a lot of money.
Okay, so in a few moments' time, Krishna has got a couple of examples where broadcasting companies have been using Facebook Live, both here in the UK and elsewhere around the world. We're halfway through the programme, in fact, a little bit more than halfway. So we've got 12 minutes to bring you just some more news items from the world of live streaming over the past 7 days. A couple of things. We've often talked about copyright and people streaming things via Facebook Live or by Periscope and things like that of copyrighted material, whether it be films and so on. Well, now there's been a new kind of feature or kind of app, I suppose, not quite an app, which has been a tool which has been developed called the Rights Manager, which kind of does what it says on the tin. And what that is able to do is to see what is being streamed and then to cross-reference that with its archive footage. So it's able to work out whether something is being streamed is actually copyrighted, maybe a film or maybe a TV program, and therefore should not be broadcast. So it kind of cross-references in real time, checks the live video on Facebook against its archive of previously broadcast or previously recorded material, and then is able to work out a copyright infringement. So that is going to be hot wires into Facebook Live coming soon. So be aware of that if you like showing off your TV or films to other people. And also at VidCon, which has been going on over the last week or so, as the kind of digital videos version of Comic-Con, Facebook Live was asked about how on earth they're going to get all this kind of monetized. And they've said that they're going to be poised to explore putting adverts in the middle of live streams. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to happen if it is live, but if there's a way for Facebook Live to make money and perhaps a little bit come back to the broadcast as well, I'm sure they'll work out a way. And they've said live videos tend to run longer. As we know, it's actually not unusual for people to broadcast live for longer than an hour. So you can easily imagine maybe an ad break in the middle of a live video could work well in that context. It's something we've talked about before, both copyright and how to make money out of all of this. And we'll keep our eyes peeled as those two situations develop over the coming months and years.
Well, just as we wrap up in terms of on Facebook news, we're actually going to go on to lots of other platforms. One of the things that's been really interesting over the years that mainstream publishers have looked to actually enhance their content with, for example, images and, of course, video content. And one of the reasons they do that is particularly if they've got other publishing channels, such as, like, say, they're on radio or they've got TV, is the cost of the production of that other content and the actually airing of that, particularly if they're, let's say, a commercial channel and they've got to make sure they've got ads in there too. So Peter and I both attended an event earlier on this year called MojoCon. 700 plus journalists from around the world actually went to this event. It was in Dublin. We actually had a part in it in terms of in the context about live video and live streaming. But one of the organizations that was there, which was really interesting to hear from, is about Al Jazeera and how they've been using lots of different social media platforms. Well, what's recently come out in terms of an article, you'll find it over at Digiday, is about how they've been actually exploring Facebook Live for its TV feed. And so in this last week, they actually plugged in a 24-hour live TV feed and streamed it through a continuous feed on Facebook. They also had several 90-minute segments to test how well that they performed as well. And one of the things that they said in terms of from its TV stream on the 18th of June had footage of the challenges there in terms of in Rio about the Olympics. It again had similar views numbers that Peter was talking about before with other organizations, about 30,000 in real time. But at the time that the article was written, it actually doubled to 60,000. So there's a lot of people who watch that content in terms of on replay as well. And Sky News and Reuters have also been doing similar. Al Jazeera go on and talk about the fact that they're trying to figure out how to produce more live videos in the field where they've got 50 correspondents scattered around the world. So that's a real challenge there in terms of how they do that. But also then just coming forward to what's been going on in the UK specifically, in terms of how they've, one organisation has been using Facebook Live there, again, to have more extensive coverage. Then the BBC has got a programme called Newsnight, a very popular programme, and they have about 45 minutes to actually talk about events. So because of what's been going on, as I'm sure many of you will know about in terms of the EU referendum, should Britain actually stay, should the UK stay in or out of the EU, they actually turned to Facebook Live. And so, in fact, if you go to their Twitter account, you'll see some graphics over there where what you can see them doing is actually all of their different content that they have. So I just hold it up here. You can see they put a graphic up on Twitter to actually tell you all the different live streams that are going to be taking place on Facebook Live, who they're interviewing and what time they were. And that's because they want to have a lot of extra coverage.
Just like a TV channel with those scheduled broadcasts at certain times.
It was. And so, of course, that 45-minute show that people would tune into, they've also already got people who are watching them and following their content on Facebook, and they've got people following them on Twitter. So actually being able to produce more content when their programming wouldn't actually permit it. I think we're going to see more of that.
Absolutely. Okay, I'll talk about YouTube news, and Krishna, if you can come off the back with the updates and changes, or how Periscope is being used over the past 7 days, that'll be fantastic. With 6 minutes to go, let's get cracking. So YouTube, they feel as though they've kind of missed out. Of course, some people have been able to do live streaming via YouTube in the past, but they're really kind of pulling their socks up and getting cracking. They say that the product lead of immersive experiences at YouTube has been talking this week and says that they've put a lot of time and effort into making their platform great, stable, reliable and fast. So maybe having a pop at some of the other live streaming platforms aren't managing to do that at the moment. And they say they will be having a much better infrastructure. And also YouTube live streaming is going to be baked straight in to the core of the YouTube mobile app. We've said it before. That's been something that Periscope or Twitter were very, very slow to the party with. You are now able to Periscope straight from a new tweet, but it's still a little bit clunky in my opinion. So you won't need to open anything else if you're going to be broadcasting live on YouTube. There's going to be a big fat red button you press, really, really obvious, and also be able to take or select a photograph to use as your thumbnail. So that's a little bit interesting, a little bit different. And then you can broadcast in real time. Also the chatting as well. So a bit like Periscope YouTube is what the experts who've seen this are talking about. Streamers will be able to see the comments that are being posted, and also some kind of popular kind of referencing system like the hearts are likely. YouTube certainly gearing up for war is the quote from TechCrunch.com over the course of the week. And essentially what they're saying is that as well as notifications, the big thing that YouTube has got is the archiving. So as soon as your YouTube live program has stopped, it's going to be archived straight to your channel. So the finding, the discovery of material is going to be much, much easier than scrolling through Facebook Live posts and scrolling through that timeline on Twitter as well. It's not very easy to discover what someone has broadcast before, but all of this is going to be, as I say, built into that huge discovery, archive, searchable system that is YouTube. So they reckon that that is going to be where they are going to be winning the war, linking in with all the recommendations and the playlists and the thumbs up and so on, the curation, in other words, together with the reliability, the robustness of that particular platform. We'll keep our eyes peeled on YouTube as that develops.
So we've only got 30 minutes with you this week, as always, to cover lots of news. So I'm going to go run through a few quick things that you might want to take notice of. Firstly, Twitter actually acquired a company reportedly for about 150 million US dollars. The organization is called Magic Pony. And why might we be interested in this? Well, Magic Pony's research centers are all about actually helping us get better quality video, and specifically in terms of live video. So their technology can be used for photographs, static videos, static images, you'd say, but also Twitter specifically mentions it, actually using it for live and video content. Talking about Twitter and video, one thing to also notice, whilst it's not specifically live video, you might be aware that this week now we can post video content on Vine and Twitter of up to 140 seconds, which I think is really interesting as a way for you to use it for promoting your live streams, or of course actually taking some of your content and doing replays and driving people back to your content. So lots of things going on there with Twitter. I also just want to mention a couple of other apps that I've been testing out. We talked a few weeks ago about Musical.ly. I have to say I'm not so good at Musical.ly. My teenage daughters are much better than me. But the app actually was due to reduce a new live video tool. So actually I came across it. It's not bedded into Musical.ly as I can see it at the minute. It's called Lively. You'll find it over on the App Store, iOS App Store, and that's live.ly. It will connect with your Musical.ly account, so it can actually bring in people from there. You could send a link out to people. I've actually been testing it. I can't see an archive that's live, or sorry, a replay for people to watch. So it very much looks as like the Meerkat days, where actually once you're done, and it's over. So you might want to go test that out. A couple of other ones that we've been exploring. One is amplify.me. I actually was really quite intrigued by that because Peter directed me over to it. Actually, was pretty surprised that you don't have to have an app to be able to watch it. There's a longer story. We should actually do them justice a little later, and then perhaps another show about it. But actually, really interesting app. And it's been built as a way where you just share a link with the people that you want to be able to see it, and they can watch it. So you don't have to have an app to be able to watch the content. But actually was very, very pleased with the quality of content that I could see that I could create on that. Not sure it's for me longer term, but definitely want to check out. And the other one we should also mention, and I think you've talked about it previously as well, Peter, is Huzza. Huzza actually this week has made their announcement of an update to their platform. Over the next week, or in fact it's the next few days now, you can access their account with a premium account. So you have to have a premium account, a paid account, to be able to do multi-purpose live streams. And so you can have up to 6 people at a time, and they do have an invite code that you can actually use over the next week to be able to access it. So it starts off, the bottom level pricing is $15 US. You get an invite code, and it drops down to $9 that you're going to be grandfathered in. Lots of additional features for the different levels that you have up above that, but might be worth considering. Good quality audio and video, and up to 6 people can live stream at the same time.
And just before we go, really big boost to the publicity for Facebook Live and Periscope this week when the Congress closed down, or had the TV cameras closed down during a sit-in by some of those members of Congress. And so the members of the general public across the United States weren't able to see what was going on. So the members decided to live stream instead via Periscope and via Facebook Live. Okay, that is it. Our 30 minutes is up. That was a good canter through the last 7 days of live streaming news. We covered an awful lot of ground. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Thanks for the loan of your eyes and your ears. Join us in another 7 days when we'll update you again.